You can feel the pressure. You know that your whole season is on the line.
Instead of one championship race at the end of the year, you've got 10 championship races, during which at any point your whole season can be ruined.
Kenseth's chances may have just gone up in smoke. The 4 not going. They wreck behind him.
This is the top 8. These are the who's who of 2015. There's not going to be mistakes made by these top teams.
Joey Logano will sweep round 2.
NASCAR's shortest, tightest, toughest racetrack.
It's very dangerous. You're going to get pushed, you're going to get bumped, tempers are going to flare, but it's all about staying calm.
Welcome to NASCAR Sprint Cup Series qualifying from Martinsville Speedway, presented by DraftKings. Absolutely gorgeous afternoon in Martinsville, Virginia. We started with 16 drivers. That got whittled down to 12. And now, we come to Martinsville, the first race of round 3 of the playoffs with only 8 drivers still in contention. Joey Logano, after sweeping all of round 2, has to be the odds-on favorite as we enter this first race of round 3. Hello, everyone. Rick Allen alongside Jeff Burton and Steve Letarte. So we do enter round 3, Martinsville, Texas, and Phoenix. How is this round different?
Well, not only are the tracks different, but the competitors. We're down to only 8. To advance out of round 3 to Homestead, you have to be one of the top half. We're going to go from 8 to 4. So just simple math says we started with 16. You had to be in the top 3 quarters to move on, then a little bit better than that. But now you have to be in the top half with 3 very unique racetracks coming up.
Yeah, and I think the unique racetracks will determine a great deal who moves on. And here's why. We're in Martinsville, a half-mile racetrack, very, very, very tight racetrack. Then we go to Texas, a mile and a half, but it's very slick. There's almost no grip there, fast but very slick. And then we go to a 1-mile racetrack. So there's 3 different kind of racetracks in this round, and it's different than the previous round. So even though we saw Joey Logano dominate the previous round, that gives him nothing going into this round. They're all equal, but also we have 3 different type of racetracks coming
Okay, so round 3 is very different. The first race of round 3 is Martinsville. Why is qualifying so important when we come to this track?
Well, when you come to Martinsville, you think of tight, closed quarters, not only on the racetrack, but on pit road. So you need to qualify well first to have a good pit pick. You want to be able to qualify somewhere in the top 5 or 6. There are some good stalls. Number 1, by far and above, is the best pit stall. But even if you can't end up on the pole, you want to end up somewhere on the front stretch or with an opening. With the tight quarters, we see a lot of damage, a lot of hopes kind of extinguished easily on pit road.
Yeah, and then on the racetrack, when you're in the back of the pack, the middle of the pack, it's so much hard racing back there versus racing in the front. The guys in the front can kind of set the pace for the race. They're not side by side, they're more single file. The further back you get, the harder it is, the rougher it is on your equipment, the harder you have to push, the more you bang into each other. So all those things have a wear and tear effect on the race car, and you don't want that for a long 500-lap racetrack. This is a long race. This is not a short race. It's very, very hard on the equipment, very hard on the driver. So you want that track position because you can be a little more relaxed.
And we were here at this racetrack in the spring, and the guy who won the pole back then was Joey Logano. He's standing by with Marty.
And he's hoping to do that today. He was fastest in practice earlier today. Obviously, the car is pretty quick, Joey, but putting down a lap like that where you're a 10th faster than the guy in second surprised you a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. 10th here is a lot. It's such a small racetrack, and your overall lap time's not very big, so there's not a large number there. So, it's impressive that the Shell Pennzoil Ford can do. But obviously the track's gone through a little bit of a transition. We had a lot of truck practice out there, so just to be interesting to kind of see what happens there and what the track's going to be. But overall, I do feel like we got good speed. Hopefully we can just get through the first round and then kind of tune on it and see where we're at, see where the track's at, and make some good adjustments from there.
Everyone says it's such a tough place to qualify, and when you look from second to 10th in practice, 4/100ths of a second separating those guys. Describe to the fans at home how difficult it is to qualify here and why it's so difficult.
Todd and I were laughing in there because after I made my mock run, I came over the radio and I was huffing and puffing. I don't know why, but 4 laps here is so intense, and it's because you have to get every little bit out of it, and you're right on that ragged edge. If you just slip the tire a little bit too much, the penalty could be up to a 10th. So you're trying to push and get everything out of it, but that risk versus reward and how much you lose if you slip it a little bit too much. So you're right on that edge, and you're doing it for like 3 or 4 laps. So you're holding your breath for like 4 laps, and you end up just I'm glad I don't have to run that hard for 500.
One thing you guys certainly do not lack for is momentum. You swept the last round. Did you wake up at nights during this week and go, I can't believe we won all 3 races in a row during the chase?
It is. It's incredible. I do think that sometimes, but not that much, because you still got to look out the windshield. You know, we don't really have the opportunity to look back and reflect on what we've done so far, because, you know, the way this chase format is, you know, we're reset back to 0. So we have to keep going. We don't have that points advantage anymore. We have a lot of momentum, which is a nice advantage, but we don't have any points to fall back on. We can't relax. We got to keep looking out the front windshield and try to do it again, you know?
Rick, they have the momentum, no doubt about it, but as he said, looking out the windshield, certainly not the rear view mirror right now as Joey Logano heads into the round of 8.
And a great point brought up by Joey Logano. The points all reset. Everyone on an equal playing field, and the intensity about to ramp up. 3 rounds of qualifying. Martinsville. 5 lucky fans can win a pair of tickets to Champions Week in Las Vegas. Visit NASCAR.com/Vegas for your chance to win tickets to all the festivities of Champions Week. And we'd like to welcome the Comcast Regional Networks who are joining us for this qualifying session today for viewers in their areas. Comcast Sports Net, Mid-Atlantic, Chicago, Northwest, and Bay Area, as well as the Comcast Network in Philadelphia. Welcome to this qualifying session. Let's go trackside to Marty.
And let's chat with Kevin Harvick, who got to spend some time in race trim and qualifying trim in his number 4 car today. So, which was it better in, race or qualifying trim, or both?
Well, the car's pretty good. The driver's not very good in qualifying trim. That's just been definitely a weak spot of mine through the years. So, hopefully we can go out and make a good lap in our Outback Chevrolet and see if we can't get at least a good first round and hopefully a good starting spot by the time it's all said and done.
You mentioned how tough it is to qualify. Why is it so tough to qualify at Martinsville?
Well, it's different this year, too, because of the rhythm has kind of changed as to what it was through the years because of the less horsepower and the less gear and how hard you can drive the car into the corner. So, for me, that is against everything that you did for a number of years in the corner at Martinsville, and now you have to drive it more like a truck than you do a cup car.
Interesting. You certainly sound better. I heard you're feeling better. How's the health update? Because when we heard you Tuesday, you didn't sound very good.
I haven't felt very good in a couple of weeks, so I've been kind of battling a couple of illnesses to get through the last couple of weeks, and then this week I finally went and got some medicine. So I feel a lot better today. I'm almost got my whole voice back, and I'm not coughing anymore. So we're in a lot better shape than we were 3 days ago.
The antibiotics certainly working, Dave. Kevin Harvick feeling a lot better, but I tell you what, if he can put on the pole, he would feel even a little bit better than that.
Jeff Gordon appears to be the picture of perfect health this afternoon. And judging from the weather, Jeff, how much does this affect what you're doing? Because it's a perfect time for an interview. For qualifying, how's this weather?
Yeah, the weather's amazing. As long as it's consistent for everybody, you know, when there's clouds cooling the track, then you know, you want to catch that cloud. But right now there's no clouds in sight. The cooler temperatures definitely take the car a little bit of time for heat to get in the tires to see what you've got. But there's definitely some strategy that can go into how many laps you put on your tires, how quick you can get that good lap in, and is it good enough to transfer to round 2, and then same thing in round 2, how many laps do you need, because you really want to save those tires best you can for round 3. We saw the 22 do a good job with that last time. I thought we did a really nice job with that as well, but we'll be playing with that right here. Most important thing is just advancing through each round and trying to put up a really good solid lap. This place, you know, it's such a fine line between attacking the corner and attacking, getting back to the throttle and doing too much of that.
Were you able to find that balance, Jeff, in practice earlier today?
We started pretty free, and you know, we didn't put a good lap up there. The second time, I thought the team did a really nice job with recovering and making some good adjustments, and then from there it was about fine-tuning. So if the conditions are very similar, I feel really good about round 1 and round 2. But if we make it to round 3, you know, man, it just comes, it's so tight, so close to doing every single thing right, especially when you look at the speed of the 22 car. He's very, very strong out there.
And that's why we love to watch it. Good luck to you. Marty?
Chat with Brad Keselowski, who's told his team here that he has it all figured out for Martinsville qualifying. What's the secret?
You go off that corner, you go, and you go, And listen to in-car camera tape just 1,000 times. That's Martinsville.
It's that simple, huh?
Yeah, that's simple. Just that noise, too. But, no, the car's been really fast, so hopefully it makes that noise all race long this year.
You guys decided to spend the entire day of practice in qualifying trim. Why?
Pit road is just so important here. It's half the battle is racing on pit road. And as long as, they don't freeze the field going to pit road, it always will be here because of how important it is and, the tight confines of the racetrack. But so if you qualify well, you get a better pit road selection and hopefully help out your pit crew. And that's always a good thing. Everybody enjoys that. But you're going to see that from a lot of teams here. And certainly we're no exception. I think we're really fast in qualifying trim, too. So that's good for the line truck part 4.
I know for this round you feel awfully confident, and especially here at Martinsville where you finished second in the spring, Brad.
Yeah, that's a lot of confidence when you run well somewhere. But, it doesn't mean anything for today or even Sunday. We still got to go out and do our jobs.
All right, and I hope you guys got that, Steve and Jeff. It was real simple over the years. It's that's all you got to do to make the car go around Martinsville, according to Mr. Kozlowski.
It's all about sound effects.
I want Jeff, every track we go to from here to the end of the year, I need the sound effects on what a good lap is supposed to sound like.
And Jeff looks at me and closes his mouth.
Silence.
When we come back, cars on track. The beginning of round 1 next. Premier League action tomorrow on NBCSN. 2 legendary clubs and a pair of managers with something to prove. Can Jose Mourinho lead a struggling Chelsea to a win over Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool? Chelsea hosts Liverpool tomorrow morning at 8 Eastern on NBCSN. First round, 20 minutes. The top 24 advance into round 2. Here the engines fired. Round 2, the fastest 12 will advance. And that's just a 10-minute session. And then round 3, 5 minutes will determine the top 12 starting positions. Pit road's so important at this track. And we mentioned pit selection. Let's look at pit road and where it's optimal to pit.
Yeah, it's very unique. The track's so small, the pit road makes up almost 3/4 of the racetrack, and the timelines here can be very important. And basically, you're calculated over the zone. So if you're on a timeline or near a timeline, there's an opportunity to take advantage of it. You see right there Jeff Gordon accelerating into his box. So as you see him come down here, you see Matt Kenseth right behind the 24, where you're going to get to a point as Kenseth pulls off, the 24 is going to accelerate. You can see it there kind of jump into his pit stall. The concern is where the 2 timelines are in his box. If you accelerate too much as he did and then cross that second timeline, you could be going at average speed too high in that box, Jeff, be speeding on pit road.
That's right. You see what happened to Jeff Gordon. He got caught speeding on pit road. And then what's really, really difficult is also the radiuses of pit road. Nowhere do we go that has radiuses on both ends of the racetrack. So you can see at the end of pit road, Kozlowski, all these guys got together leaving pit road. A lot of damage to Kozlowski. He ended up not being happy at all. Kurt Busch trying to retaliate on him after this happened. We see a lot of incidences leaving pit road.
And then if you can have the advantage of pit stall 1, it's a big advantage because you're going to see these games right here being played. Denny Hamlin here is checking up on purpose, trying not to be in the even line leaving pit road. So at Martinsville, there's a huge advantage of restarting on the bottom to try to leave pit road in an odd position.
Yeah, and pit stall number 1, that is one of the reasons it's the preferred stall. The other reason is, Jamie McMurray in pit stall 1, he rolls out clean, no problem, easy, not running into anybody. Look behind him. Look at the mess behind him as they come off pit road. So pit stall 1 is the safest, quickest. It is the place you want to be, and the only way to earn that is sitting on the pole today.
And that's about to be determined. We have to go through 3 rounds to find out who will win the pole, who has that option of picking pit stall number 1. In the spring, it was Joey Logano who won the pole, and then Denny Hamlin ended up winning the race. Joey Logano definitely on a roll right now, though.
Yeah, like Jeff mentioned in the open, it's not just pit road, but this track, as you see the 48 kind of pull over, this doesn't surprise me. He's going to wait. Concrete racetracks, something about concrete racetracks, they just don't retain the heat like you expect. So as more cars run on them, they normally get better. But as Jeff was saying at the top of the show, it's just mentally exhausting running in the middle of the pack all day long. Qualifying up front is a little more single file. It's just, you can be a little easier on yourself and your equipment.
And one thing to make point of is that on a lot of racetracks we go to, you would want to go when the track was as cool as possible. But at Martinsville, it's very hard to get heat in the tires. So actually, you want the track as hot as it can be. You don't want a cloud cover. You don't want a cool condition. You want hot conditions so it can transfer that heat into the tires. So what's going on right now is these cars on the racetrack, they're putting heat into the racetrack because their tires are going on the racetrack, and it is adding heat to the racetrack. So most teams are going to sit and wait and let for that track temp to come up some.
And normally we see drivers go out and on their first lap will turn their fastest lap, or sometimes the second. But here, you guys are mentioning maybe the third or fourth lap could be their fastest lap.
I think this is the most difficult place to qualify here in New Hampshire because it's so difficult to get heat in the tires. You slide around, the car slips, you have to build the brake heat, all those things you have to do in this qualifying. That was kind of done for you in practice. In practice, when you start making mock qualifying runs, the rotors are hot. Everything's hot. So when you put the tires, the wheels on, all that heat transfers to the tires, and you actually pick up time more in practice than you do in qualifying. So all that's very, very difficult at this racetrack.
Landon Castle, Sam Cornish Jr., Cole Witt, Trevor Bain, Alex Kennedy all out on the racetrack. 5 drivers on the track trying to take time. Let's go back into the garage. And Marty.
Well, Rick, just what you talked about, I talked to several crew chiefs about that, about how you manage the tire situation in this qualifying session. As you mentioned, they expect it to be about lap 4 in each session. That will be your fast lap of the session. So you have to run that many laps in the session. But, Steve, there's also an element of saving tires, too. You don't want to put too many laps on your tires, so you've got to run them in way more than you normally would in an intermediate track, but you also want to conserve as many laps as you can as well. So, tough game for you crew chiefs, isn't it?
It is very difficult. As you see right there, Sam Hornish Jr. just put up the best lap of his qualifying run on the last lap, which was lap 5. He now has 5 laps on his tires. And the issue that makes this even more difficult is I expect lap times to be as tight as anywhere we go. Here in Bristol, the 2 half-mile tracks, you can imagine a half-mile track, there's just not a big variety in lap time. You're talking hundredths of a second. So it's not like you're going to be able to put up such a great lap time that you'd be able to sit back and relax. I think you're going to have to run 4 or 5 laps to put your best lap time up. The worst thing you want to do, Jeff, is quit on lap 4 and miss it by a hundredth of a second and think you could have went faster on lap 5.
The other difficult thing for the crew chiefs and the drivers is the strategy of this qualifying session. Do you want to go out and run one session and run 6 laps, or are you better going and running 3 laps and then coming back and then going back and running another 3 laps? That's the great question. You won't know until you try it, and that's a strategy that all these teams have to decide which one they want to try.
Well, I'm starting to get a little anxiety. We have 5 cars that have taken time. We have another 5 cars on the racetrack, and I mean almost 20% of our qualifying session's gone. So we have cars lined all the way up around pit road. We talk about how tight this place is. It's not just on the racetrack. It's tight confines on pit road. These cars are going to go in and out of the garage area. Unlike qualifying on pit road that we've seen at other tracks, Rick, they're going to have to weasel their way through all of this traffic back into the garage area. Everything just seems to be harder here.
You can see Jimmy Johnson right here. His first lap, he was about 8th fastest. His second lap, he's 4th fastest. Now he's coming to his 3rd lap. You can he's still behind Hornish Jr., but he's gaining ground. So now on his 3rd lap, he moves to 3rd fastest. He's going to keep running because he believes he can run faster than that. So how many laps do you run? You can see now he's coming to his 4th time lap, and you can see he's faster than Hornish Jr. at this point.
Lost a little bit of speed entering 3. And with that loss of speed, he will not be able to go faster than McMurray because McMurray was able to go quicker than Sam Hornish Jr. McMurray had the fastest lap on his 3rd lap. 19.205 for Jamie McMurray. Earlier in practice, it was Joey Logano with the fastest lap at 19.161. We'll see if they can back that speed up.
I have to believe Jimmy Johnson and his team are very disappointed with this qualifying run. Their best lap is a 43.
That's gonna make it, but
that is 2/10 slower than what Jamie McMurray was able to run. So he was only 25th in practice and don't seem to have found a lot of speed so far in this qualifying session.
Now you can almost hear the disappointment on Chad Knaus's, radio. He's not pointing fingers, but it's just I don't think that's going to be fast enough.
They were half a tenth of a second slower than what they ran in practice, as we see Denny Hamlin making his way out on the track.
So what Denny's doing is he's going around slow for a little while. He's going to scuff his tires in. He's trying to get heat in his tires without making a fast lap. So this is another strategy we see teams use. He's going around the racetrack, scuffing those tires, trying to get heat in without abusing the tires and putting laps on them.
And what we were showing there, the 51, you see the issue with that. Why it's a great idea. Denny Hamlin somehow has to stay out of everybody's way, which is very difficult to do here.
Short track, not a lot of room. Denny Hamlin employing one strategy while the other cars on the track trying a different strategy, including Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex Jr. in the Furniture Row, number 78. Had a top 10 finish here in the spring. And Martin Truex Jr. 6th quickest on his 2nd lap. Justin Allgaier goes to 2nd quickest on his 3rd lap. And now Denny Hamlin was 0.6 of a second off of the fastest lap on the last time by.
Jamie McMurray sat on the pole for this race last year, so he has a history of qualifying well here.
McMurray has posted the mark. Closest to that, it's on the track, is Martin Truex Jr. He is 2nd quickest on his 4th lap, 19.360.
And I'm just surprised, Rick, the gap that Jamie McMurray continues to have over 2nd place. We talked about how tight qualifying is here. Well, everyone got the memo except for Jamie McMurray, because 2nd on back are hundredths of a second apart. But Jamie McMurray has a 1/10.5 over 2nd.
Were you expecting to see speed slow down? Because we saw faster speeds in practice than what we've seen out of a few different drivers.
I expected them to slow down. This is because of everything we talked about earlier. The track's cooler now. The cars don't have the heat on them they had in practice. Again, every other racetrack, all those things work against you, but at this racetrack, they work for you. So in practice, you have that heat transfer, and you have all those things that are going on that you don't have here. So if you can normally, if you run a good lap in practice, if you can run that same speed in qualifying here, that's normally a really good lap.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see if Joey Logano can go faster, because Jamie McMurray has from his practice speed, and so has Martin Truex Jr. The difference is Joey Logano put up such an impressive lap in practice. I don't know if he can rerun that lap.
The other factor, the Camping World trucks have been on the track for almost 2 hours between the first practice and this qualifying session. Does that added rubber on the track make a difference as to how these cars will handle in qualifying?
Well, it definitely affects how they'll handle. I'm really surprised, though. It doesn't seem like they're putting a ton of rubber down the track. As you see Kurt Busch go through the corner here, it's still relatively white. There's not a lot of black area where the track has been rubbered up by the trucks.
Tony Stewart jumps up into the top 3. 19.336 for Tony Stewart. Again, Jamie McMurray, the fastest time in this first session at 19.205. Dale Earnhardt Jr., former winner at Martinsville, has now moved up to 4th.
I have to believe this track has, and this race in particular, has special meaning for Junior. After last week, a disappointing finish, how close they came to transferring into the chase. To be able to come back and rebound here, have a great race, win this race, that would, even though they're not going to have a chance to win a championship, that would make things better. So, you have to believe this race means a great deal to Junior.
And Junior's teammate, Jeff Gordon, up to 2nd quickest on his 2nd lap, 19.321.
And he quit.
And he decided that was enough.
And I think that's the right strategy. If you run a lap that's good enough, you think you can transfer, quit, just get it off the racetrack, save laps on your tires. I think that's the right strategy.
Top 24 will advance to round 2. Earlier in practice, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was 24th at a 19.402. Now Dale Earnhardt Jr. 19.336. Currently 4th quickest in this qualifying session.
I mean, really, that's the simple comparison. The 88 and the 48 were next to each other in practice. Both actually ran the same exact time. Both make adjustments for qualifying. Jimmy Johnson currently 11th. You could hear the disappointment in that lap at a 45. Dale Earnhardt Jr. found some speed. He went a little quicker to 33. So it's tale of two stories. One went a 0.5 tenth quicker, one went a 0.5 tenth slower, and look how split they are on the grid. I agree. I think the 88 will make the top 24. I don't believe that the 48 will.
So the 48 potentially will have to come back out on the track. As we have just 10 minutes to go, 10 minutes remaining in the first round, 26 cars have been on the track. 43 are here for 43 spots. No one will go home this weekend.
Solid call. Edwards come in at 19th. That's going to be borderline. I'm not sure that's going to get in. That'll be close. I'm sorry, he's 11th. I'm car number 19. He's in 11th, but still, I don't know if that's going to do it. You've got to make the top 24. Top 25, but I don't 24. I don't know if that's going to be enough, because I think some guys will go out and run faster their second time out.
Danica Patrick, 6th quickest. Danica has shown that this may be one of her favorite tracks. She's had great success when we go to super speedways and the plate tracks. She's also had great success here at Martinsville.
She has. She's run very well here at Martinsville. And we just saw Danica actually running another lap. I think that caught the 18 off guard. She's actually continuing to run laps. I think this lap's good enough. I probably would have called the 10 in at this point. As we see Matt Kenseth trying to get up to speed, currently in 15th. Looking for just that little more assurance, like you said, just a little bit better lap to make sure he's in.
And you mentioned maybe a little confusion as Kenseth has jumped up to 3rd quickest, but look at the 18 here.
Well, and why the disappointing part about being up the racetrack right there is what you get on your tires, because while you don't see a lot out there, there's some hot tire debris, and the 18 had to get out of the lane to let the 10 come through. It's really on him to get out of her way. He did the right thing, but that's going to make it a little bit harder to get up to speed.
Yeah, but doing the right thing is not always easy. That was a disadvantage to get out of her way. You know, you're sitting there racing for the chase. That was, you know, he did the right thing, but that was a difficult thing to do because you know ultimately that made it harder for him to get up to speed because he did have that debris on his tires.
Kyle Larson looking pretty impressive on his qualifying run. 14th quickest. Kyle Busch. Now Kyle Larson jumps up to 9th quickest. Kevin Harvick all the way up to 2nd quickest on the list. The cut line is set now with Matt Benedetto in 24th. Kyle Busch to 8th with that most recent lap. Jimmy Johnson 17th quickest, and we heard in Chad Canals' voice not happy with the lap. Might not think that's going to advance as now Joey Logano, who is fastest in practice on the track.
Well, and this is only his 2nd lap, much like Jeff Gordon. He ran really fast on the 2nd lap. I expect to see the 22 quit, and that's exactly what he does.
Joey Logano shuts it down after going 3rd quickest.
So there's 2 strategies. The first strategy, you have to be fast enough to move through. That's everyone's strategy. But if you are a car that you think can contend for the pole, the 22, the 24, Matt Kenseth up in 5th, Matt Kenseth has 5 laps on his tires. Gordon, Logano, Harvick all only have 2. So it's not only be good enough, but be good enough as quick as possible to save some time on your tires.
Are you thinking now that the guys who have gone out a little bit later had a little bit of an advantage, a little bit more heat in the track?
It's hard because I think the cars that have gone out later are the better cars. So I think that they were going to be good either way. They just happened to be patient enough to wait, and I think that's helped their lap time.
Brad Keselowski 17th quickest with that last lap. A.J. Allmendinger into the top 5. Oh, and into the wall, the 5 of Casey Kane.
Into the wall, guys. Hang on, just stay up there for a sec.
6 minutes, 18 seconds remaining in this first round.
Yeah, Casey was 6th quick in practice.
Oh, look at the wheel hop. You can see under braking. And this is a racetrack that this happens on. It happens in qualifying trail more than it does other times because the rear brakes work so much quicker than the front brakes do. So if you don't have enough front brake in the car, and sometimes when you go to qualifying, you actually need to put a little front brake in the car. That's an adjustment the driver can make. You'll actually get wheel hop, and it looked like to me getting into turn 1, you can see the rear tires hopping because it was too much rear brake, and the car came around on it.
Take it to the garage. We'll get everything off of it we need.
Off of it we need sounds to me like a backup car for Casey Kane. Casey Kane was 17th quickest. He had taken 3 laps before that happened. Into the wall goes Casey Kane. Track just going green a few seconds ago. In this first round, under 6 minutes remaining. And still to take time, there are 5 cars that are working now to take those times.
You see the 48 car, the 19 car, the 9, the 27, all these guys, they're watching really closely how fast these cars can run because with only 5.5 minutes left, you have to be prepared to run again. If these cars beat you and knock you out, You've got to leave yourself with enough time to go and make another run.
Well, and time is the key, because you got to remember, we're looking at 4, 3, 4, 5 laps, 20-second laps. You're over a minute, but you got to take the green on the lap that counts, not your run. Because you take the green on lap 1, well, if lap 1's not fast enough, you're done. You have to take the green on lap 2, 3, 4, whatever the lap is you're looking for.
Carl Edwards, 21st, sitting anxiously watching to see how quickly they move down to that cut line. Now they're 22nd as Ryan Newman jumped up to 14th quickest. Marty, what are they saying about that 2 team?
Well, and they're the ones who could be really hurt by this Casey Kane thing, because they were just on their second lap at speed coming to the third lap, which they felt would get them much higher than 19th where they are currently. Paul Wolf feels like that will not get them into the next round, so trying to cool this 2-car down, and they had a chance where they could go, a window where they could go. Joey Meyer called to Brad Keselowski. He couldn't get it out onto the track quick enough, so they went a little bit later, and that may cost them.
And just that quickly, Carl Edwards is outside the top 24.
And that's going to make the 2 situation worse, because now you have the 19 of Carl Edwards, the 48 of Jimmy Johnson, 17 of Ricky Stenhouse. You see some names there. 16 of Biffle just jumps in front of the 2, moving the 2 farther down the list.
And Clint Boyer went to second quickest on his 4th lap. Dave?
And Rick, we saw on Carl Edwards' first run, the car get a little squirrely exiting the corners. Carl told his crew, that's why I stopped running, because the car was not getting any better and I was not getting any faster. So they came in and worked on it. They sent him back out, seeing if he can crack the top 24.
Very close. That lap he doesn't do it. Still 25th quickest. For Carl Edwards, he'll have to try again.
And what's so hard at this racetrack, if you push too hard, if you try too hard, it actually slows you down. If you don't push hard enough, you're not fast enough. So it's very, very difficult here to know what the limit is until you cross it. So you see Carl Edwards, he's found it. He's going to push himself all the way to third.
Third quickest for Carl Edwards. He can bring it back into the garage. Marty.
Guys, here's the tough game for Brad Keselowski. You see those cars in front of him. They just told him on the radio, Paul Wolf said, I need you off pit road with 1:30 left on the clock to run the 5 laps that we need. But they need a hole, and there's a lot of traffic on the racetrack, and all those cars who also want to go out and run a second time. So that's the game right now, running out of time for all these guys who want to make a rerun.
Yeah, the problem is you know what's in front of you. You know the cars in front of you that may go because they're sitting in front of you in pit road. But you have teams coming out of the garage behind you that you can't calculate. And those guys, they can mess your lap up as well, because with 2.5 minutes left, everybody can't be nice anymore. You just got to go find your way on the racetrack.
Well, there, the 2's going to pull out and go, because the 11, the 51 in front of them on line, they're not out yet. They're waiting. What I'm really surprised to see is the 48 of Jimmy Johnson patiently waiting there. He's already been eliminated.
And here comes the 48 of Jimmy Johnson.
Maybe I was loud enough.
Jimmy Johnson outside the top 24. Brad Keselowski is inside the top 24, but would like to have a little more of a comfortable cushion above the cut line to make sure that someone doesn't knock him out in the final seconds of this qualifying session. Paul Menard now on the cut line. 19.403 is the time Menard has set for that 24th position. Keselowski hovering right around it. Jimmy Johnson in the green. Will he move ahead of Keselowski? Good lap for Jimmy Johnson. Can he keep it going as he comes across the stripe? Where will that move him? Moves him all the way to 19th. Brad Keselowski now 24th. Keselowski trying to improve upon his own time. That time, Keselowski up to 20th. Now it's Biffle who's on the bubble. Under a minute to go in round 1. Paul Menard back out on the track. He's 25th. Sam Hornish Jr. 26th. They've got to find speed if they want to advance into round 2. Sam Hornish Jr. does it, moves up to 24th.
That eliminates Biffle, but Menard still on the outside looking in, trying to run a faster lap.
And Menard not finding the speed. David Reagan in the 55. Reagan is 28th quickest in this session. With 20 seconds to go, Reagan's going to get one more shot, one more lap. As he works his way through 3 and 4.
And he's the only car on the racetrack.
This lap will count, and the lap right now that he started will count. He's going to have to find speed if he wants to bump Sam Hornish Jr. out of that 24th spot. Through 3 and 4, still in the red. And across the stripe, David Reagan doesn't advance into round 2. The top 24 are now set. Jamie McMurray was fastest in round 1. 24 drivers still with a shot at the pole. Only the top 24 advanced to round 2. These are the drivers who didn't have enough speed. Greg Biffle, 19.395, and advancing was 19.384. That's how close it was to making it into round 2. Look further back into the field. Brad Keselowski was 20th quickest in qualifying, in an interesting session for Brad.
Yeah, he's coming to what probably would have been his fastest lap. Getting into turn 3, he got the left sides on the curve. That messed that lap up, and then after he took away by the start-finish line, then Casey Kane had his problem, had to shut it off and come back down pit road.
Went out for another run. Found a little more speed, but doesn't look like he's happy with that qualifying round. And a guy who I'm sure is not happy with his qualifying round, Casey Kane, is with Marty.
And Rick kind of assessing the damage. And Casey, what happened there?
Yeah, I ruined my pretty good car. Really good car, actually. I just, first 2 laps felt okay. But I knew I needed more speed, and I just held it out a little too late and turned in and kind of broke and lifted off the throttle like everything at once and just got wheel hopping. Just totally screwed up myself. And we were good in practice with our great Clip Chevrolet, and I know we would have been good there. It was just a matter of, doing it right.
And that's one of the frustrating things about qualifying at Martinsville, trying to get a little bit more, and sometimes that'll bite you.
And Casey Kane, coming into turn 1, he mentioned braking.
Yeah, so if you look right here at the right rear tire of this 5 car, what he's talking about, you see how violently that tire is literally bouncing off the asphalt. What that is as he got out of the gas and on the brakes all at the same time, you actually start like harmonics in the rear. It actually starts to bounce up and down on the asphalt. And you're out of control at that point, Jeff. But like what Casey said, that's not something you see a ton here. He attributes to maybe a driver mistake at that point.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure. There should be enough limit where a driver can arc the corner and drive in a little deeper without it wheel hopping. So I appreciate him taking the blame. To be quite honest, and it ought to be more limited than that.
Dave.
Rick, just one more chapter to Brad Keselowski's Halloween horror story in qualifying. The two did get into the wall. I believe we showed that, and during this timeout, NASCAR officials were called over while one crew member worked on the right rear quarter panel just a bit to pull it out so that it wasn't hitting on the right rear tire.
So Brad Keselowski not happy with his qualifying run, but he'll be advancing to round 2. The richest event in American horse racing will have Triple Crown winner American Pharoah. What could be his final race, seeking horse racing's first ever Grand Slam, the Breeders' Cup World Championships. Coverage begins tomorrow at 1 Eastern on NBCSN, leading up to the Breeders' Cup Classic race at 4 Eastern on NBC. Green flag is out for round 2. This one just 10 minutes long. 24 drivers trying to advance into the top 12.
Yeah, and you see how much more congested it is here. We mentioned earlier about these drivers. While we lined them up on pit road to start, because the trucks, pit road is their garage area. It's unsafe for those trucks to be out there as these cars come on and off pit road. They have to go all the way to the garage area between runs and qualifying. It makes it just more congested, harder to get in and out of.
So the cars working their way out onto pit road and onto the track for the beginning of round 2. Once again, will we see 3 and 4 laps for each car to try to find their fastest lap.
Well, we need to get a car on the track. We're a minute in, and nobody wants to go quite yet. With 24 cars needing to run, it's going to be very, I mean, this is hard. Right now you have laps on your tires. Either if it's 2 laps, 4 laps, 7 laps, you still have laps on your tires. Jamie McMurray, fastest car in round 1. He's decided enough's enough. He's going to roll by them all and go.
Difference with Martinsville, you want to get a little heat in the track. So some drivers waiting until others go out to try to put a little bit of heat in the track.
I will say this, though. We saw earlier some cars were able to go faster their second time out. So the same could happen in this segment also. So if you go ahead and go now, you give yourself enough time to come in and get cooled off and come and run again. So that could be part of the strategy, going ahead and running early.
I'm still interested to see McMurray. He ran in 3 laps earlier. Edwards, while he was third quick, he had 7 laps on his tires versus, say, Harvick and Logano, who both only had a couple laps. I think that's going to come to be an advantage by the time this session's over.
Boyer, 1956 on his first lap. His second round. Jamie McMurray, his second lap quite a bit quicker. 19.253 for Jamie McMurray. And that may be good enough for Jamie, except he's going to dig one more time, see if he can get another lap.
Well, I know it's a good lap, but I agree with Jamie McMurray. The last thing you want to do is have to run twice if you think you can go faster. Plus, you're probably going to have to run a couple laps in that final round, as he ran basically the same time, another 25, a couple hundred slower, actually.
Just a couple thousand slower, actually. See, that's how tight
right.
it is.
Sorry.
Very tight as Clint Boyer continues to dig, see if he can get some more speed. His second lap has been his fastest lap. That's been consistent, with the exception of Tony Stewart. His third lap was his fastest. Everyone else that's gone, it's been their second lap that's been their fastest lap. Tony Stewart makes his 4th lap his fastest lap, and he moves to second.
It's going to be interesting to see if Carl Edwards has much left in the tank. With 7 laps his first run, do the tires still have life enough in them to run these speeds?
And how quickly will he turn his fastest lap? Will it be on the first lap on the track, or second, third, or like Stewart, his 4th? A 41 for Edwards on his first lap.
That's a very good first lap. You see he goes into the green right here. He's got a little traffic in front of him, but I don't think that's going to affect him as much.
Right up next to that curb, very unique to Martinsville. When Carl Edwards first came here in the Camping World Truck Series, he jumped the curb, got into another truck, wrecked the truck, said that was the scariest moment of his career. He thought that he was going to get fired. He was driving for Jack Roush at the time, jumped the curb, got into another truck, and when he wrecked, he said that was it. I thought that was the end of my career. Well, the career has since blossomed.
Jack fired people every time they wrecked. I wouldn't have had a job.
Jeff Gordon has posted the fastest speed.
And he was one of those cars that only had 2 laps in the first session. Now only 2 laps in the second session. He looking good to move on to round 3 with very few laps on his tires.
24 is the mark everyone's looking for now. Not just the car number, but also the time that he posted, 19.24. Kevin Harvick, 3rd quickest.
That was on his first lap. Oh. I'm not sure. I wouldn't have told him to quit at that point.
He's going to try to find some speed and try to find the fastest time. It's looking good. He's in the green. Can he move Gordon down? Yes, he does. Kevin Harvick, fastest on his second lap, 19.231. Martin Truex Jr. jumps up to 10th quickest. That's his first lap. Dale Earnhardt Jr. 11th quickest on 4 laps. Earnhardt Jr. might be in trouble of advancing, as he has already dropped out of the top 12.
Yeah, I'm not sure anybody below, say, Kyle Larson or Tony Stewart is safe at this point with cars still to run.
So Denny Hamlin doing the same thing he did in session 1, trying to get some heat in his tires before he takes off.
Top 12 advance. Matt Kenseth now on the track. Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Ryan Newman, all in top 7.
this used to be Matt's worst racetrack. He hated coming to Martinsville. He never ran well, just hated it. Then he started driving for Joe Gibbs, and all of a sudden he started qualifying well, racing well. Now he thinks a whole lot better of it than he used to.
And very close to the cut line.
This is a good lap for Matt Kenseth, though.
Kenseth,
not quite good enough.
14th. Denny Hamlin, 13th quickest. That was Hamlin's second lap. This is his third that he's on. Brad Keselowski, 9th quickest on that lap. Keselowski at 19:34. Hamlin all the way up to 5th, 19:29. The top 5 separated by 6/100ths of a second.
Get adjustment, keep running.
A.J. Allmendinger, 16th on his first lap. 6th on his second lap. Into the top 12 goes A.J. Allmendinger. Under 3 minutes to go in the second round. Still 5 cars that have not taken time, including Joey Logano, now on the track. Dave.
Rick, we talked about tire management being a key, perhaps temperature control as well. Joey waited longer than most all of the other competitors in the top 24 to back out of the garage, and even then didn't fire the car. Only when he went forward out of the garage did he fire it, and we'll see if that temperature play helps the 22.
Logano, 11th quickest on his first lap, trying to find some more speed on lap 2. He was 1/10 of a second better than 12th. We'll see whether that will land Logano. It lands him as the fastest. 19.166 for Joey Logano. And once again, Logano 7/100ths of a second faster than second place Kevin Harvick. Jimmy Johnson, Sam Hornish Jr. still to go. Casey Kane also was in the top 24, but we know Casey Kane has gone to a backup car. Carl Edwards just below the cut line.
Just going around and start to end his first lap. This is the lap that's coming that needs to count. He needs to hit all his marks on this lap. You kind of throw the first lap away, getting up to speed, getting heat in your tires, and this is the lap he's got to make work.
And again, this is the second time Edwards is out in round 2. Just over a minute to go in this session.
You see his hands inside the car, how much he's working the wheel. That's normally not a good sign of a car that handles well around Martinsville. You typically want to see a driver really smooth with the wheel. Carl's really having to wrestle.
Well, with Brad Keselowski on the cut line in 12th and Jimmy Johnson just going on the racetrack for his first run in this session, it's going to be interesting to see if Brad's going to be able to transfer through to the next round.
Jimmy Johnson's first lap was a throwaway lap, 19.565. Now we'll see what he can do with this lap.
Jimmy ran 8 laps in that first session. He has a lot of laps on his tires. He's going to be able to see, can he find more speed? But he also has Kurt Busch on the racetrack, though, who's tracking into the green down in the middle of 3 and 4.
Jimmy Johnson slowed down that last lap. Kurt Busch very close to the cut line. Kurt Busch does not advance with that lap. Time clicking away. Will this lap count for Jimmy Johnson? 19.499 for Jimmy Johnson on that last lap. And he'll shut it down. Brad Keselowski, 12th fastest in the second round. As the red flag is displayed, that ends round number 2. The top 12 are now set. 12 will determine their starting positions and who will win the pole. That's coming up. A crisp fall afternoon for NASCAR Sprint Cup Series qualifying from Martinsville Speedway, presented by DraftKings. 2 chase drivers that will not advance into the third round. One of those being Carl Edwards in the 19, and the other, the 41 of Kurt Busch, not finding enough speed in round 2 to make it into the top 12. Here's how 13 through 24th will line up.
I tell you what, they're not terrible. 14 to 15. I know that's not what they wanted, but it's not so bad that it's going to really, really hurt them. So, not great qualifying efforts, but not terrible either.
See Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Jr. down there in 21st and 22nd. Dave?
This is a tricky little qualifying session, Carl. What bit you hardest to not send you through the next round?
It was the first run. The first run, if I'd have just been a hair faster, then we wouldn't have had to rerun. We got behind on tires, and that's really what set us back. I mean, I guess I can, sleep easy tonight knowing I didn't make one mistake in the third round. That's good. But we wanted to be better than that. We can do well from 14th. We can win from there. Got a great pit crew. Our car was better here than it was in practice. I'm really excited about the positive, improvement there. The second round ran a 26. I think that's what second time around in the first round ran a 26, and that would have been pretty good in this round. So I feel like the speed's there. We're just missing that first one got us.
You told your team it will be all right starting 14th. Do you believe that in your heart?
Yes. I think still my average here, that's probably about 10 spots better than it. And with a good car here, you can do some good. I mean, it's a fun racetrack. You can race on it. And my pit crew, like I said, second to none. So we'll be just fine.
Yeah, we talked all day where Carl came from as far as Martinsville is concerned. This is a good day for him. Marty?
All right, let's talk to his teammate, Matt Kenseth, who misses the cut line as well. What was your struggle in qualifying, Matt?
First round I got loose off of 4 coming to that lap 3 or whatever, and that messed up lap 3 and lap 4, so we had to run a 5th lap, and really I think I just hurt the rear tires, and this last round is just too loose. We're just going to get it going.
When you're not in the chase like you're in currently, does it allow you some freedom on Sunday to kind of race a little bit differently?
Not for me, it doesn't. Not really. I mean, every race, I've said this a million times, but every race to me is a huge race. I mean, it's pretty neat to be able to race in the Sprint Cup Series against all the best stock car drivers there is anywhere, and you want to go out and try to do your best. Every time you're on a racetrack, you go out and try to compete for wins. So we don't plan on changing anything. Just bring our best stuff, go race hard as we can. Hopefully we can get some finishes. Hopefully get a win or two before the year's out.
For Matt Kenseth, qualified 18th today, Rick.
Half of the top 12 chase drivers. Who will win the pole? How will the top 12 start? We'll get round 3 underway next. Sunday, the NASCAR playoffs continue. Sprint Cup Series racing from Martinsville, presented by Castrol GTX Magnatech. Our coverage beginning at 11 a.m. Eastern with NASCAR America. The first race of round 3, and it comes to a short track, guys. Bumping, banging, the accordion effect, restarts, so many things come into play.
Well, you have to believe going into this race that some of our championship contenders are going to find themselves in trouble during this race, and how they come out of that trouble, how they work through it, can determine if they have a chance to win the championship or not. This is a challenging racetrack, very short, very tough. Emotions, tempers run high. You have to be cool, even in tough situations, because you have to work your way out of the problem.
Steve, before this qualifying session began, Kyle Busch was out on the racetrack, checking it out.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about this racetrack and how your car's handling. At some point, it's good to get out there and actually walk on it. You see right here, a very important part of Martinsville are the transitions from the asphalt to the concrete and then back off the concrete onto the asphalt. You have to do it in the entry and exit of every corner. It can definitely affect the grip your car has.
And the 5-minute clock has begun. Round 3 is underway. Who will win the pole? How important is it to have pit stall number 1?
You definitely want pit stall 1. You definitely want those brakes on pit road where you don't have to go around somebody. So, and primarily, you want that track position. You want to be able to start in front of this pack. We talked about Carl Edwards, Kurt Busch. They don't have the greatest spots in the world. Not terrible, but that pole position means a great deal for pit stops all day long. And also it allows you to be a little easier on your car when you first take off when this race starts.
And even as great as the pole is, the pit stall 1 is, there's still 4 or 5 others that are a group of second best. They're nowhere near as good as pit stall 1, but they are head and shoulders above the rest of the pit stall. So even within these top 12 right here, you want to be in the top half of this group.
So we've seen Joey Logano wait for the other 2 sessions. In this session, he went right out. And the reason why They can lower the air pressure in the tires, but they want that heat in the tires. So as soon as he could go in this session, he went, rolled as quickly as he could to have that heat that's left in the tires from the first run.
Great first lap as well. A 1931 for Logano.
Yeah, that's a crazy fast first lap. I think he's going to, if he gets back into the teens, he's going to have a good idea. That's a 21. That's another great lap. You see Truex at a 22 is right on his heels.
Kevin Harvick also on track. He's run 2 laps. His fastest 19.452.
And there's no saving tire at this point. You might as well run as many laps as you feel you can run in this session to continue to improve on time. Logano there actually goes slower. That last lap was a 26.
All 3 laps in the 20s, though, for the 22. That's really fast to run 3 laps.
What about strategy for Joey Logano? If he stays out on the track, is he maybe getting in the way of some guys that are trying to get on the track to have a good lap? He could just keep running.
I'm not sure I'd make any more enemies at this point with Joey Logano. I think Joey's won 3 races in a row. He's got a great race car. I think perhaps he made a mistake. Perhaps he thinks he can improve his lap time. But over time, he'll get to a point where enough's enough and he'll come in.
He's going again. He slid out of turn 4. This is his 5th lap. And he slowed down enough. He's saying he's done.
Yeah, that lap was a 38. All the other laps have been in the 20s, so there just wasn't anything left. There's Denny Hamlin in front of him doing the same thing that he's done every session, warming those tires up. But I think great strategy by the 22 and Logano, waiting for those first sessions, and then in that last session going as quickly as they could, going later in the second session, and enabled them to leave early the third and still have heat in the tires. I think that was really smart strategy.
Yeah, the multiple sessions are very important. Kevin Harvick was second in the last session. He's 5th, 45. He's 2.5 tenths slower than Joey Logano here in this session.
He's 2.5 tenths slower than what he ran in the second session, too. So he has slowed down a lot from what he was able to run in that second session. Kyle Busch out on track, as is Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson goes to 4th quickest. Jeff Gordon still hasn't made it out on track. Brad Keselowski still hasn't made it out on track. Those are the only 2. Now Gordon is out there. The green lights next to the names indicate that they are on track. Jamie McMurray, 4th quickest.
How about Martin Truex Jr., currently 2nd? We talked about this team, a 1-car team in Colorado, doing a great job of trying to continue to battle these bigger teams. And then Jeff Gordon in his final year, his final race at Martinsville, a track that he has had so much success. A pole here, I'm sure, would be an emotional moment for 2014.
He's on lap 2 and a 1/10 of a second off of the pole. He goes 5th quickest on that last lap, 19.343 for Jeff Gordon. Brad Keselowski out on track. Keselowski, his first lap, 19.432. Second lap a little bit slower.
Yeah, Keselowski's done. You saw him get into turn 3. The car got loose, had to correct it, got up the racetrack. So just not enough grid point right there.
Just 30 seconds to go.
You see Brad, he's cleaning his tires. What he's trying to do is get that debris off of his tires, and he's going to try to make another run. Rather than just driving into turn 1 as fast as he could, he decided to try to get the debris off, scrub the tires, try to get it off, and then go make another run. Here he goes.
Logano has 1 lap right here. The fastest time. This will be the last lap for Brad Keselowski. The last lap for anyone, if he can make it work. You see he's in the red going the wrong direction. 0.3 of a second off of what his teammate was able to do. Half a second off. And he slid out of 4. The session is over. Joey Logano will win the pole.
Why not? 3 wins in a row. Go ahead and sit on the pole.
And that's a sweep for Joey Logano. He won the last 3 races. Can he win 4 in a row from the pole? Qualifying is in the books for the Sprint Cup Series. By DraftKings, Joey Logano, Martin Truex Jr. making up row 1. It's the 6th pole this season for Joey Logano, and he sweeps the Martinsville poles. Martin Truex Jr., his 3rd front row start this season. Let's hear from the pole winner. He's with Dave.
And Rick, I don't know if you're allowed to keep brooms, but he had a Richmond broom. He swept the poles there. He's got a round 2 broom from winning all 3 in that round. Congratulations again on the pole here.
It's an amazing run around right now. It's just this Pennsville team, they're unbelievable. I'm just a lucky guy who gets to drive this thing right now. It's so much fun, and we're doing everything right, but all that can end in a blink of an eye, so we just got to keep our focus. Obviously starting first here, really anywhere towards the front here, Martinsville pays a lot bigger than probably most racetracks. Having that great pit stall up front, and as well as staying up towards the front and keeping your fenders on it the whole race is important. So like I said, I couldn't be more proud of these guys right now.
Now, you didn't get the win in the spring, but you had that pit stall. How much did that help you throughout the day, and how much will it help Sunday?
You got to think that first pit stall is worth a few spots throughout the day. If you're able to get a few, it's a lot easier to pass them on pit road than it is on the racetrack. And I got an amazing pit crew here lately. They've been doing it. So just like I said, everything's clicking right now just right. Our cars are fast. Our team's good. Our pit crew's great. We're just, like I said, it can all end in a blink of an eye, so we better enjoy it, but we also got to keep working hard.
Tomorrow, a lot of hard work, right? A couple of practice sessions. How do you dial in the 22 for the race on Sunday, Joey?
I think it's key for us to figure out long run speed. Our car has always been fast on the short run. We've always qualified well here. And then we kind of hit a wall at some point, and it just kind of slows down on the long run. So trying to get a car we don't want to give up on the short run, but we want to make sure our car is good on the long run as well. So, like I tell Todd, I want both all the time. I want long run speed, I want turn, I want drive, I want it all. But that's what it takes to win these things. Everyone's so good.
And let's not hit a wall, shall we?
Yeah, I don't want to hit that type of wall. It's figure of speech.
Figure of speech. Hey, let's go with figure of speech for now, Rick.
Yeah, Joey Logano wants it all. Well, he's been getting it all as of lately. We'll go through the starting grid. 2 chasers in row 1. You go back down to row 3. 2 chasers in row 3. It seems like they're paired up throughout the field.
They are paired up. Martin Truex serving notice. They're here to play. They're here to win this thing. So they think they're underrated. They think they can get it done.
And A.J. Allmendinger, how about a third-place position for the 47 car? It's a great qualifying run. And as you mentioned, some more chasers back in row 6.
Clint Boyer back in row 9. Matt Kenseth. Casey Kane to a backup car.
Listen, Allgaier with a good run as well.
How about Johnson inside row 11? It's going to be exciting to see with all the wins here. That's a little below average qualifying start for him at Martinsville. See if he can make his way back up through the field.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Austin Dillon back in row 15. Cole Witt, Trevor Bayne in 16. Again, 43 drivers filling out the 43 spots for Sunday's race. All the way back to Alex Kennedy. When we come back, a lot has been made of pit stall selections. We'll go into great detail of that. Return here on NBCSN. Gorgeous fall afternoon at Martinsville Speedway, and we're talking pit selection. Let's go to Marty Snyder. He's in pit stall 1.
Well, Rick, we've heard it all day long. Good pit stalls at Martinsville are awfully hard to come by, but Joey Logano has the best one in the city. Right here, pit stall number 1. And as he mentioned a moment ago, this is worth at least a couple of spots during the race. Here's the cool thing. From the end of his pit stall, it's just 75 feet to this line at the end of pit road, and that's where the pit road camera is. And what that means is he can win the race off pit road a little bit easier than everybody else. But right here is where the games are played on pit road. We talked about Denny Hamlin stopping on pit road. He literally would come to a stop like right here and see if he could get to that inside line. Well, Logano can kind of dictate that pace because he'll be in that stall number 1. One, he can beat everybody to that line where the camera is and win the race off pit road. But 2, he can also decide, hey, how many cars are passing me? I want to be on that inside line on that restart. So that's key for that number 1 pit stall, and Joey Logano will have it both races here at Martinsville this year.
Starting in the odd-numbered positions gives you the advantage of being on that inside line. Let's focus a little more on pit road.
Yeah, when we look at pit road, Rick, it's not just about only pit stall 1, but there's a handful of good pit stalls here in Martinsville. Without a doubt, as Marty said, this is pit stall 1 in this area right here. That's where everybody wants to be, but only the pole sitter has an advantage. What's unique about Martinsville, the way pit entry works, pit stall 43, no one's going to want to pit there. That end of the racetrack is very difficult. The corner's very tight. You don't really want to end up being there. If you're at Martin Truex Jr., you're in the second position, you're going to pit at the end of the front stretch, somewhere in this area right here, either before or after that opening, because what that is going to allow Martin Truex to do, because these red timelines we've put in, this is where they're used to calculate the speed. he'll be able to speed from this line all the way around to this line and then get slowed down before the camera. The corner can be very congested, but if you can run above average speed through the corner, it's an area you can gain a lot of position. So while pit stall 1 is definitely the best, there are 2 or 3 more good pit stalls here in Martinsville.
Okay, Jeff, so the crew chief wants to have pit stall 1. He wants to have an opening. As a driver, what are you focused on in such a tight area on pit road here at Martinsville?
Well, a lot of it depends on what pit stall you do have. If you have 1, it's just all about getting into pits. But if you have a pit stall further in the back, it depends on what the car around you is doing. So if you come in your box and you know that a car's got to come around you, then you have to stop short to make sure you can get out. If you have to come in between 2 guys, then it's a whole different strategy. So it just depends on what's going on around you. You don't get to set that pace. The only guy that gets to set that agenda is Joey Logano in that first box. Now, I disagree with Steve a little bit. I think pit box 43 is good because you can beat people to that pit box. It gets a little chaotic early in the race because there's so many cars coming on off pit road. But without a doubt, the first pit box. But I just want to be around cars that aren't in the same lap with me because then I get to come in the way I want to come in, and I get to leave the way I want to leave.
There was a first, a driver and a crew chief disagreed at Martinsville. That might be
Well, the beauty is, guess who picks the pit stall?
the crew chief.
Crew chief.
So he's going to stop kind of wherever.
But I complained once about pitting a pit stall. My car owner said, "Well, then you pick it next week."
There is an
that
art
was
to
not
it.
that was not a good plan, by the way.
No, there's really is an art to it because, like Jeff said, it's not just what stall you're in, but who's around you. And here at Martinsville, it's not just who's around you on pit road, but who's around you on the restarts. We're going to see a lot of games, like Marty said, played at the end of pit road. You really want to start on the inside. The outside line is just very low in grip. But we've only had 1 day of practice at qualifying. We have 2 more practices tomorrow. We'll figure out whose car's good by Sunday.
You have to remember the inside line, the preferred line, but you've got a curb right there through 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. The starting grid is set, but there's still more time on track. That's to come. Live Sprint Cup Series practice coverage on CNBC tomorrow starting at 9 a.m. and then final practice is at noon. Sunday is race day. It started at 11 a.m. Eastern with NASCAR America, followed by a countdown to green, and it all leads up to race coverage at 1:15 p.m.